I'm Gabrielle. I work at NS1. We're a DNS provider. If you need DNS services, please come talk to me. Gorthix is how you find me online on pretty much any social network that I'm available on, including Ravelry. Yeah. I've been using Postgres for a little while. The past few years, I've been working mainly with Cassandra, and I am really happy to be working mainly with Postgres again. And foreign data wrappers is one of my absolute favorite Postgres extensions. It's right up there with TableFunc in my I can't function as a DBA without this thing. And I apologize, my voice is kind of wrecked right now. We may do like audience karaoke partway through. I have really good notes, it'll be great. All right, so this is what we're gonna do here. We're gonna do a short intro to SQL Med stuff. And then I have demos of two of the more popular Postgres extensions. And about a quarter of my demo is mistakes. And that's kind of on purpose because I make mistakes with this stuff all the time trying to configure it. So, you know, you can watch and learn. There are probably also additional mistakes that I didn't plan on. And I have people in the audience who are going to point those out to me. Right? Yeah, okay. The other thing to know about this is the Postgres docs are excellent for the most part, but to me, they're really more like man pages. You kind of already have to know what you're doing. A friend of mine commented last week, you know, I feel like with Postgres, we give people this box of parts and no instructions, and that seems to be kind of how it works sometimes. So, and there are some quirks with the foreign data wrapper interface that I've found. All right, so DB-Link, SQL Med, and foreign data wrappers. These things are all related, but what are they and why do I want them? So, how many of us manage only one data store? I'm guessing not. Okay, so nobody's raising their hand. That's excellent. So, like right now, I have a single Postgres database. I also have Redis data stores, and I even have Influx. If you've heard of that, it's pretty neat. Keep hearing we've got OpenTSDB somewhere. And previously, I've worked in an environment with multiple Postgres databases, you know, 18, a few hundred, whatever. Also worked with Cassandra, etc. And a lot of times, I'm poking around in my Postgres database and thinking, you know, this is cool, but it'd be really nice if I had this other data set to look at, to compare it to, or connect it to, that's on another data store. And it sure would be nice if I could just tie those in. But Postgres does not do cross-database queries natively, which surprises some people when they start using it. And you know, what do you do if the other data store isn't even Postgres? You know, what if it's Elasticsearch? So you either at that point you're either like having to do some kind of hinky export-import situation, or like try to make your application handle it for you, and that gets really super fun. So DB-Link, SQL Med, and foreign data wrappers make this possible. You may have also heard the term federated data. I don't hear that so much anymore. I don't, you know, people still say that? Cool. Anyway, SQL Med is an extension to the SQL standard in 2008, and that just lays out the framework for how this access of other data is supposed to function. Quick little bit of history here. So yeah, DB-Link is an Oracle thing and has been around for a long time. This talk was originally a talk that I did with a friend of mine, and unfortunately, she could not be here today, and she was kind of the DB-Link person, so I'm going to not talk about that for very long, just kind of gloss over that. But DB-Link has been around for a long time, and Postgres, I believe it was Joe committed a Postgres to Postgres DB-Link feature back in 7.2. Okay, somewhere in there, yeah. SQL Med extension came out in 2008, and we got our first foreign data wrapper in the form of file foreign data wrapper in version 9.1, and then Postgres foreign data wrapper in 9.3, and we've made a lot of improvements to it since then. And back to this thing about, you know, like the Oracle, the DB-Link has been around for a long time. I read on someone's blog that it had been around basically forever, and I thought, well, you know, that can't be right. And so I went to find out, and according to my predictive text search, it has been around for an incredibly long time. Yeah. There we go. Okay, yes. This stuff, seriously, people, hours of entertainment. Analytics tasks throwing them into your ETL pipeline as part of your staging protocol, or if you're like me and you prefer to use SQL for pretty much any programming task you may have, you can just throw it into you can just use a foreign data wrapper and it will look like your data is right there in your Postgres database instead of having to mess around with all the copying and stuff like that. Does anyone just love SQL a whole lot? Yeah, okay. So like when I want to solve a problem such as, what is the Friday that is before the Monday that's 6 months before Labor Day, because this is when the campground reservations for Labor Day open. So I don't look at a calendar and try to count. I just go and run a query in my database. And then later I find out that if I tried to reserve it ahead of time, the campground would have said, oh, you can't do that until this date anyway. But whatever, it was fun. So that's how much I love using SQL. So, foreign data wrappers. There's a list, and let's see if I can. That's not going to show that to you all. Okay, this is on the wiki, and I have a references page at the end of this. But, I mean, look at the selection here. CSV, geodata wrappers, LDAP, generic web. There was a Twitter foreign data wrapper, I mean, all kinds of cool stuff. Pretty much anything you could want to know. Oh, great. Now I'm like stuck over here with my cursor. There it is. I'm just going to close you. Bye. Okay. Why is this not going?
Yeah.
What? It's still not working. There we go. Thank you, Stephen. I love Macintosh. Okay, so today we're going to look at two popular options. The file foreign data wrapper, which is for accessing resources on your local host, and the Postgres foreign data wrapper, which is for accessing data in other Postgres databases. I am not using foreign data wrappers in production currently. I'm making heavy use of the file foreign data wrapper for some analytics tasks, and I use the Postgres foreign data wrapper for a lot of personal projects. Because, we all have fun personal database projects, right? Yeah, okay, I'm not the only nerd in here, that's good. So, there are 4 basic configuration steps. You install the extension, and this one comes with Postgres. You don't have to compile anything. You can just do create extension, and you're off to the races. Then you create a foreign server, which is essentially your database connection string. If you've used an ODBC driver, you're familiar with having to make one of these. The user mapping is just authentication for the database connection, and then you go ahead and create your foreign tables. All right. The commands that we use to do this are create extension, of course, create server. I don't know why it's not create foreign server. I always write create foreign server on the first try, and then, yeah, that was wrong. SQL standard. Thank you.
SQL med says create.
Yeah. Well, see, I haven't read the standard. So, because it costs money, you have to pay to get a copy of the SQL standard.
Get a draft.
Yeah, a draft. Yeah. Anyway, so create server, create user mapping, and then create your foreign table. There is a much better option for creating foreign tables that's available as of 9.5 or 6, something in there. Yeah, I keep looking at you because I'm expecting you to know. That's import foreign schema, and it'll handle pulling in all the table definitions so that you don't have to hand create them with all of the columns and get your data types correct and that sort of thing. All right, and if you're familiar with Postgres' // commands, these are more of the same. We'll look at these, I'll be using these in the demo. Describe S, describe foreign servers, U describes your user mappings, and T is your tables. And like the other /D commands, you can stick a plus at the end and get a little more detail. Okay, all right, I'll take a drink of water here first. They have the water under here, like right next to all the electronics. Yeah, this is not good. Do I get through this without like spilling it on me or the equipment? Okay, so my demo environment was an Ubuntu box. I'm going to be playing a recording of that. And I had 2 Postgres 11 instances running with replication between them. Huh? That's awful. I'm sorry. Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. The replication part isn't included in my recorded demo. We'll just have to trust me when I talk about that. And all databases in this demo are in the same cluster. And if you were in Darren's talk yesterday, what that means is that they're in the same instance of Postgres running on a specific IP port host. It doesn't mean cluster like in the Oracle sense. And that is not a requirement to use the Postgres foreign data wrapper. You can go connect it to a database that you have like down in Winnemucca or something. It doesn't matter. It was just easier for me to set up this demo that way. Okay. I'm going to play an Askinema recording. Has anyone used Askinema? It's pretty freaking awesome, right? Yeah. So I prepared that in advance, and we'll look at that. As usual, please feel free to ask questions at any time. And I'm going to flip through the information about the demos and then go to the demo because I'm going to have to finagle with my Mac here a bit here. So for the file foreign data wrapper, I'm just going to have a little demo database set up, and I'm going to pull data in from a couple of local resources. And when you're using file foreign data wrapper, the data resources are read only. You can't like write out to your Etsy password file, thankfully. For the Postgres FDW demo, I'm also going to create a different demo database, and I'm going to pull in data from a database that's called ULS. This is a publicly available data set from the FCC. Are there any ham radio operators? There's got to be hams in here, right? Thank you. Yeah, so, yeah, awesome. Hi. There are 3 tables, and I have no idea what these mean. I've read the documentation for this, and I'm still not really clear on what the table names indicate. But the columns that we're going to be looking at specifically are the call sign, the licensee ID, and the unique system identifier. And this is a government data set, and if you were in Renee's talk yesterday about good data gone bad, this is in the how did you do that sort of category. That unique system identifier is not unique at all. I have found nothing in this database that would like no combination of columns that will function as a primary key. And it comes in as fixed width. It's freaking excellent. So the other thing that ham person needs to know is I'm using fake call signs as part of my demo, and I know that they're not valid call signs. So don't say, hey, that wouldn't work, because I know. They don't check it out in the database either. Anyway, so, okay, it's time to go to the console. So, does anyone have any questions so far? No. Good. Oh, crap, and I've lost my, hang on. Did I see a raised hand there while I'm... Yes. This is part of the Postgres foreign data wrapper specifically.
Oh, I mean, from a purely technical standpoint, any FDW could support import foreign data wrapper.
Wow.
But not all of them implemented. In fact, most of them don't.
Well.
Postgres does.
Okay. I have no idea what just happened.
There you go.
Well, yeah, but it's supposed to be showing my terminal.
Did you mirror?
I did.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay, this worked before the talk. It did. You saw it.
There you go. There you go.
Thank goodness. Okay, so now, yeah, we get to do more of this later. Okay, so how about we clear this out? Whatever. This was all the stuff that I did to prepare for this talk. See how hard I worked for you? Okay. Askinema, play. So part of the reason that I did the demo, part of the reason I recorded my demo was A, it was on my Ubuntu machine, and I got myself in a world of hurt trying to port it to something that I could actually play on the Mac. And B, my ability to type is inversely proportional to the number of people that are watching, and like around 3, it's just, you know, it's the cats on the keyboard thing. So, we're gonna run through this. Oh, there went my hair again. Sorry, people. Might have to do something about that. I'm going to just give the talk like this. Alrighty. So, yes, the other lesson about giving a talk is don't upgrade your machine right before you give a talk. I upgraded my Ubuntu box, and all of a sudden I had KSH. I'm like, I'm trying to do this thing. I don't have time to deal with you. So anyway, PSQL-A. Everyone know PSQL-A? Starting it up with the -A option. It's going to echo all of your queries back to the screen so that I'm pulling in a file of SQL statements with I, which is insert something, load, include, thank you. And it's going to show you what's actually in that file. Normally it would not. Yes?
Yeah, you might want to do it clear.
Thank you. Okay. What is that? Yeah, nobody knows what this is. Okay, let's just make this bigger. And big, and thank you for pointing that out, because y'all would have been missing the good stuff. Oh, for crying out loud!
Sorry.
That's all right.
Not quite too
Up one line, okay.
And not quite that wide.
Not quite that wide. Are we good?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you're good.
Okay. So this is just right now. It's just loading my PSQL-RC. So you didn't know you were going to pick up other tips in here, did you? Anyway, so yeah, PSQL-RC, that's what all this other pset and set stuff is. And now I'm going to include the first file. So you're all caught up with what we're doing, the way this demo is going to work now. So spacebar to continue. All right. So just creating a database to hold the data for the file demo, and then I've switched to it with /c. You can run a little faster, thank you. And then we install the extension. Ta-da. And I like putting pgstat statements in here just in case, but we're not going to use it in here. And then create the server. It's just this simple, with foreign data wrapper and then the extension name that you're using in lowercase, because yes, okay. There's a lot of muttering in my life. All right, so what does this look like now? We're using that /d command that we saw before to describe the server. We've given it the plus to give it extended information, but there's not a whole lot going on in here. This is a pretty simple foreign data wrapper. Okay, so creating our first foreign table. This one, file foreign data wrapper, does not have an option to import the schema from a CSV, so I have to create the file manually. And you can see if I'm telling, I've got to tell it the column names, and you can see that like on a much bigger table or file, this would become very problematic and boring. So this is why we'll use import foreign schema when we go to Postgres. So tells me create foreign table, and what does that look like? Okay, cool, we've got this table. It's in the public schema. I called it bleh. Using this foreign data wrapper, and it's in text format. This is the file name. Looks like it's probably CSV. So I always test these tables right after I make them to make sure I can actually connect to them, because Postgres will happily let you create a foreign table on something that doesn't actually exist. Great, right? That's what we've got going on down here. Could not open file. So I want to call your attention to something else here. This hint. Copy from. File foreign data wrapper is just copy from under the hood. So, need to specify that it's a foreign table, so you drop it and recreate it. And I need to pause that and scroll back. It got ahead of me. Okay, so we're going to look at Etsy group. We can't call it group because it's a reserved word, and we would have to quote it, and that sucks. So, Etsy group file, if you've ever looked at it, looks group name, password, GID, group list, etc. Everyone on my system's password is just the letter X. So easy. So, now that we have this working correctly, we can just select from this like a normal table. Give it a limit 10, because I don't want to really look at the whole thing. Whatever, this is just a demo. When I have a file that I know is it's fairly large or something, and I don't want to have to pull that data in every time I query it, which is what will happen, I'll create a materialized view on top of the foreign file there. And then that will just stay static until I choose to refresh it. This isn't going to work with data that changes frequently because you won't get updated data. How are we doing on time? Sorry, 10:50. Oh, I got to rock and roll. Okay, All right. Excuse me. So, right. How many folks have used copy from program? Yeah. Okay. This is pretty neat. Instead of just copying from a file, you can tell Postgres to copy from like the output of a shell command or something, which is about what I'm about to do here. I'm creating a temp table with set. Except I'm doing it wrong. I've given this a read time and a timestamp TZ with default and a sensor and a value, and I'm going to throw some data in it. So, is everyone familiar with LM sensors on Ubuntu? Okay, some people are nodding. If you're not, the LM sensors is the name of the package, and if you run the command sensors, it'll show you things like your fan speed and your temperature, which I think are really neat things to see because, I don't know, it's just fun. Anyway, so I sent a sleep between. We've got 3 new data points from the sensors command 5 seconds apart. All right, and you can see, my fan is slowly changing speed. Temperature stayed stable. That's good. Sucks when you see like 98 in the temperature. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Wow, sorry, I wish there was a way to speed this up. Okay, so invalid input syntax from, okay, whatever. I fixed it. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to go faster here. So, there. All right. Dropped and recreated my table correctly. I'll put this up so you all can look at this in more detail later. Again, grabbed some data from sensors, and then I ran this with /watch. /watch runs the previous query every 2 seconds until you tell it to stop. And so watch just kept running this sensors command remotely and making it look like it's in a table in my database. My demo is not running now. There we go. Okay, so what does explain look like on this? It's an explain analyze on the select from the sensors table that we just did. And all it tells you is for and scan. You don't get a whole lot of information about it because you're not going to. Postgres really doesn't have any information about this remote data set. So any questions before we move on to the Postgres for and data wrapper? Okay, no hands, good. Okay, and we're going back to Askinema play. I'm going to have some more water, carefully. Go. And yes, my machine's name is Shweti. Again, same thing, PSQL-A, and now we're starting our foreign data wrapper. Okay, so all I've done is create a demo database for this, created the extension again, and I've created this foreign server. I just give it a database name, a host to point it at, it's localhost for me, what port it's on, and this updatable is false. This is going to set your remote data stores to be read-only, basically. You can override this when you set up your foreign table. I prefer to leave this stuff non-writable, just because I want to limit the sources of input for my production databases. Okay, now we're setting up a user mapping here. Yeah, there's a plain text password in there. This is not ideal. There are ways around this. For the purposes of this demo, I'm trying to keep this simple. I've also created a schema in my local database, which is a namespace. And I really recommend that you do that with your foreign tables just to kind of have them in their own little area so people don't get confused when they're looking at them. 20 minutes left. Thank you. It's not panic time yet? Okay. Okay, so here's the goods. Import foreign schema. Public is the name of the schema on the foreign database. And I'm limiting this to just 2 out of the 3 tables that we talked about before. You've got to have the parentheses in there. I'm giving it the name of the foreign server, and I'm telling it which schema to import it into. And this is in the docs kind of, but the examples all show public, 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 and it can get a little bit confusing what's going on there. So, like I said, always check it afterwards. This looks good. We've got call signs in here, coolio. So, come on. There we go. Now I'm pausing it again. All right, so again with our describe commands, we've got this foreign server over here. This one looks a little bit more interesting. Look at these options. We've got our database name and our port, etc. And now we also have some foreign tables being described. Hey. And I can use a regular table describe command with any of these. This looks just like a regular table. For now. I can join them on something else because, I'm really interested in where the unique system identifiers don't match across the call signs because they're not actually unique. Yeah. Everyone with me so far? Okay, cool. All right, what does an explain plan look like on this? Again, foreign scan. All right, any questions before we move on? No. Okay. So, I am setting up a demo here of what can happen if you have a sequence in your remote file. So I've swapped over to my ULS database, and I've created this sequence. And I'm using this generated always as identity because identity columns are the way that we do serial now. That's the replacement. It's the recommended replacement. And I'm going to insert a few rows of data in here. Oh yeah, we have to give right perms. Okay. So I'm importing my foreign schema again. Import foreign schema, limit to that specific table. So what happens if I try to insert? Okay, foreign table sequence demo does not allow inserts because remember I set my foreign server to be updatable false. So let's fix that. It's just this easy. Alter foreign table, name of the foreign table, and this options. However, some of these options won't actually allow you to overwrite. They'll say you can't have two of these options at the same time, and I haven't quite figured out a way around that yet. I usually will go looking for it and then say, whatever, I'm just going to drop it and recreate it. It's faster. So, yeah. Okay, we'll talk more about that later. Finding out about bugs in your conference talk is great. So, what happens if I insert now? So, well, I can't do that because the remote table has this really strict limitation on what can be inserted in that column. So if I wanted, I could say overriding system value, but yeah, maybe I don't really want to do that. I like to, again, especially for sequence data, I want to protect the source of inputs for those. Okay, so I'm going to just drop that sequence column. And now, clarification. I dropped the sequence column from the local table. That's referencing the remote table. And now when I go to insert, the sequence ID will automatically be generated for me. And yes, this is one of those not actually accurate call signs I was talking about, but he's not looking, so that's all right. All right, any questions here? Good. Okay, this is either like you all are wrapped or asleep. That's great. Okay, so now we're going to have some fun with this, something similar to sequence IDs. A lot of people like to use timestamps in their database. There's going to be a little lesson in here about timestamp versus timestamp TZ because that's fun. And so I'm back now in that ULS database. This is my source database of all of my troubles. And I've created this table here, timestamp demo, and I've got created at timestamp. It defaults to now, and I've got call sign and licensee ID. Creates the table. And now I'm inserting some demo data into it. And notice I don't have to specify the timestamp because it defaults to now. And this is what I've got. Looks pretty cool. This is so I can, foreseeably say, well, this is when this data got inserted. These are obviously like totally made up fake examples just to demonstrate this stuff. Where did I scroll back to? There we go. Okay. So we learned previously that we don't want to try to insert something over there with the value already in it because it might mess it up. Can we update this table without including a created timestamp is the question. Well, turns out this is what I inserted, and no, we cannot. It does not automatically apply it. I can insert data, but it's not going to get the timestamp. So what if I send it now? Okay, cool. That works. Great, we're good to go. Well, maybe not so much. Maybe somebody comes to a Postgres conference and says, oh my God, I'm not supposed to use timestamp. I'm supposed to use timestamp TZ. So they go in and change the column type on this table to timestamp TZ from timestamp. If you don't understand the difference, timestamp's just like, it's basically a picture of a clock, and timestamp TZ will essentially have timestamp information. It'll tell you when it actually was. So, okay. Still looks great. I've got an offset now. This is my updated remote. Remember, this is the table in my ULS database. So, now what happens if I try to insert a timestamp locally? This looks great. Now, I switch back over to my database that has the foreign table in it, and I check out what it has to say. This still looks good. These look like the right timestamps. But notice there's no offset. This table still has timestamp. This should be frightening you, okay? So, because of this right here. Boom. Yeah, not what we actually wanted. Though, the source table back in the ULS database also has wrong information now. Okay, and this actually happened. This is like a story from my life. And we had 2 different people inserting data from 2 different time zones, and it was kind of a wreck. So, this is one potential way to fix this. But I'm not guaranteeing that it's right because I am not the, hey, come on, go. I am not the timestamp expert, and I often get this stuff wrong. Still wrong, da, da, da. Okay. Now, just for kicks, just for fun, I think, oh, awesome, yeah, we're gonna finish right on time. So, back, come on, where did we go? Back at the beginning, in our file foreign database, demo, I made that table that was reading off of the sensors command on my local host. So what I'm going to do now is create a foreign server that links to that table. So I'm just basically chaining these things together. I'm not saying this is a good idea. I'm just saying it's fun. So I now have import foreign schema public. I'm importing that sensors file into my local host. And this is what it looks like. And now we can select from the foreign table that's running the command. Is everyone with me there? We've got these things stacked up. And if I wanted to, I could go back to the original database and make another foreign data writer back to this and just like make it all go in a big circle. That's also very fun and can cause problems for people. It's great. That it? I think that is it. Yeah, exit. We're done with the demo part. So let's see if I can get my stuff switched back. I don't want to mirror displays anymore. There. Oh my gosh, it actually kind of didn't work. Oh, really? Okay, slideshow. Start from current slide. Yeah, it did. Okay. Yeah. I got people walking out. Arrangement?
No,
that's not it.
The screen's on though.
Okay.
Try doing the slideshow again maybe?
Yeah. Let me just view normal. Sorry, folks. Start from current slide? Oh, well, okay. I can talk, I guess. No, I'll mirror this and I can talk. That'll be good. Maybe. Oh, for crying out loud, what is wrong? This is what it did. Oh. Thank goodness. Okay. All right. So we did all this. So when do you want to avoid them? When your queries are going to like totally crush the remote resource, because you've got to pull a ton of data over sometimes, and maybe you don't want to do that on your OLTP database. Like, hey, I'd like this entire 2 million row table. Probably not a good idea. Or vice versa. Like, a coworker and I were making a proof of concept with the Elasticsearch foreign data wrapper, and we got kind of ahead of ourselves, and we were like, oh, we should try to query this index, and it turned out to be really huge, and we were trying to pull it into like the equivalent of an M1.small Amazon instance, and it just crushed it, totally hung it. So just be aware of what you're doing there. And also watch it if you have like unreliable networks. You may like suddenly get no or some data. Materialized views can help you with that. Like I mentioned before, if you know that the remote source is perhaps unreliable, make sure you get a good copy of your data and then put a mat view on top of it. And then you won't have to worry about that. Of course, then you've got to worry about refreshing them. So they're not that great if your data changes frequently. The other thing that you can do to help statistics is to analyze your foreign tables. You have to do this manually. Auto vacuum doesn't pick them up. You also can't vacuum them because there's nothing really for Postgres to clean up. If they're going to change a lot, analyze is probably not going to help you. And I've never found where the stats are stored. There's a single record in PG stat all tables that references a rel name of foreign data wrapper. But I haven't figured, okay, we can look at it later. Yeah, there should be something. I haven't found it.
PG statistic.
Okay, we'll look at that. So PG dump does not include the data because it's not local, of course, but it will include that user mapping. So be careful with that because that's plain text. And streaming replication copies all of this over just fine. It just appears, you don't have to do anything special there. So yay. Again, test your new tables thoroughly, especially if you think that you want to write to them. Make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row there. Postgres foreign data wrapper is available on RDS. Can be really helpful there. That was my main use case several years ago, was getting a bunch of RDS databases to all chat with each other. Use import foreign schema for easier setup. We've seen the list already. If you want to create your own foreign data wrapper, the black hole foreign data wrapper is a pretty good template. It doesn't actually do anything. And multicorn and holycorn are some libraries frameworks you can use to write your own if you're into Python or Ruby. I finished 5 minutes ahead of time. Are there any questions? Yes.
Have you ever used foreign data wrappers to look at JSON data?
Yes, I have used foreign data wrappers to look at JSON data. And you can do all the same parsing that you would, the stuff that's so much fun to figure out. Yeah. I think there's actually like a Mongo foreign data wrapper too if you wanted to get really native with it. Yeah. Yeah. In the back?
Maybe I missed it. The Postgres one, foreign data wrapper, does it leverage the planner and stuff? If you're saying like it's fully planned on that server, it just resolves that?
No. Not entirely. Some things. Okay, so the question was, does the planner plan the query on the remote server? It does some of it. Joins, certain types of joins and certain types of aggregations will get pushed to the remote server, but everything else is still being done locally.
If you join wrong, it can pull the whole table over, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you join wrong, you can just create havoc in your remote database. So, yeah.
You have to test join.
Yeah, so it pushes down conditionals as well as, yeah.
So you want to use conditionals on your joins so you can help.
Yeah. And, my mantra, always try it in staging on your full prod data set. And then, you'll still be surprised when you go to prod, but maybe not as surprised.
I'm surprised you didn't show explain verbose.
Oh, that's a really good idea. No, I did not show explain verbose.
Because that shows it.
Okay, thank you. I will, I don't have a pen. But yeah, I'll write that down for the revamped version of this.
Yeah, you can mention it,
Explain, analyze, verbose will show you
the query
the query
that we send to the other
that we send to the other side.
Yeah, that is actually important because
Right,
The
so.
other side of that is also,
Speaking of which, this isn't entirely version dependent. I've set up foreign data wrappers between 11 and 3 different versions of 9 both ways, and 9 and 10 and 10 and 11 and all over the place. But that could really, yeah, like you said, you think, oh, well, this is going to be fine, and it's not because they haven't upgraded that source yet. Yes, Stephen.
extensions.
Extensions, what about them?
You have to tell the local Postgres server that you're creating them, where you're creating your foreign tables and whatnot, what extensions are installed on the other side. If you wanted to push down conditionals for extensions.
I was not aware that there were any. Are there?
Yeah, you can do that with like PostGIS.
Oh, sweet.
So you can get like a conditional for PostGIS can actually be pushed down the other side if you tell Postgres that
It's a
the other
GIS.
side has
Oh, nice.
PostGIS
Okay.
installed.
Cool. I actually have not tried this with GIS data yet. Great, something else to do.
It's important.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing this weekend. Okay. Yes.
So Oracle foreign data wrapper, you still need the client, Oracle client software?
Probably.
Yes.
And there was a DB link foreign data wrapper that I think is an older version of the Oracle foreign data wrapper. I don't know, is that still around? Okay, no one knows. Okay. No one, being Stephen. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with one. The Oracle FTW does require the Oracle client libraries to build it and all of that nonsense.
One point I would make is when you're dealing with foreign data wrappers for other entities, some of them are more polished than others.
Yes.
You can be surprised by the lack of pushdown. Or engineers who try to do something and
Yeah.
surprise you with the lack of pushdown.
Yeah. The comment was about using a non-Postgres foreign data wrapper, and that some of them are more polished than others and may behave in ways you're not expecting or wanting. All right. Anyone else? I'm calling it. So long, farewell.